What looks like a tense lull may be the calm before a much larger storm, as the IRGC has issued a deliberately cryptic message intended to unnerve Israeli leaders and signal that something more consequential could be coming. After Hezbollah carried out strikes, Iran's stark warning that Gaza could be next has amplified fears across the region, prompting concern that localized attacks could rapidly escalate into a far broader and more dangerous conflict. What began as tactical drone use has been elevated into apocalyptic rhetoric, with Tehran invoking the Mersad name again to turn a battlefield tool into a wider symbol of deterrence and existential threat. With the IRGC dropping hints about a possible Mersad-style operation, analysts worry that Israel could be maneuvering into a carefully set trap designed to produce strategic shock and impose heavy costs. Tehran's blunt declaration that "you haven't seen anything yet" is meant to be a chilling warning, suggesting that more intense and unpredictable actions could follow unless current tensions are abruptly defused. The chief commander of the IRGC Quds force, Brigadier General Esmaeil Qa'ani, has issued a chilling message that was carefully worded to send alarm across the region and put Israel's leadership squarely on notice. Qa'ani warned that Gaza could unleash its own set of surprises, much like Hezbollah's sudden strikes in Lebanon, implying that what played out there could be replicated with equal force and unpredictability. The IRGC chief argued that Israel had repeatedly ignored warnings about Mersad drones, and by failing to take them seriously, had already paid a heavy price in both strategic setbacks and damaged deterrence. Qa'ani claimed Hezbollah's recent attacks exposed how badly Israel had underestimated its enemy's capabilities, demonstrating that adversaries now possess the reach and coordination to deliver painful, unexpected blows. Who will answer for the casualties? Qa'ani demanded, leveling a sharp criticism at Israeli leaders and suggesting their decisions and miscalculations bear responsibility for the mounting human and political costs. The IRGC commander warned that Israel may now be vulnerable to an even bigger storm, a far more extensive wave of retaliation or coordinated attacks that could overwhelm its current defensive posture. Qa'ani urged Israel to be careful, delivering a blunt admonition that continued aggression or missteps could trigger a dangerous new escalation with unpredictable regional consequences. Iran's Quds force chief suggested Gaza conceals threats Israel has yet to confront, hinting at hidden networks, weaponry, or operational plans that could surface suddenly and change the battlefield calculus. Gaza also has its flood, Qa'ani wrote in a post on his X account on Friday, using stark, evocative language to warn that a sudden, overwhelming response could be unleashed if tensions continue to rise. The Mersad drone has evolved from a single weapon into a powerful symbol of Hezbollah's expanding battlefield reach, signaling that the group now projects influence and strike capability far beyond its previous limits. Qa'ani invoked Mersad as concrete proof that ignored warnings can carry severe consequences, stressing that complacency or miscalculation by Israel can quickly translate into painful and unexpected strategic losses. Iran has deliberately linked the current tensions to the legacy of its historic Operation Mersad, framing recent events as part of a longer narrative of resistance and signaling continuity between past victories and present threats. A Hezbollah drone strike recently killed an Israeli soldier and wounded others, a stark incident that underscores how new tactics and technologies are producing lethal, on-the-ground consequences for troops. In a separate attack, reports say several Israeli soldiers were injured, with 2 listed in critical condition, highlighting how successive strikes are raising the human toll and testing Israel's medical and operational response. Qa'ani's remarks serve as a clear signal that Iran wants Israel to brace for further regional challenges, suggesting coordinated pressure from multiple fronts designed to stretch Israeli defenses and political resolve. Israel Aerospace Industries conducted a test firing of its LoRa ballistic missile in June, choosing to showcase this capability precisely when diplomatic and strategic tensions with the United States were already running high. The long-range artillery missile was launched from an undisclosed location, reinforcing the sense of operational secrecy and hinting that Israel is rehearsing real-world deployment scenarios rather than just a publicity stunt. Israel Aerospace Industries released video of the test, with visuals indicating that the launch was conducted at sea, demonstrating the system's flexibility for maritime platforms and its ability to strike coastal or inland targets from offshore. The tested LoRa variant is advertised with a range of about 400 kilometers and sub-10-meter accuracy, making it a high-precision theater-level weapon able to hit critical targets deep inside enemy territory with a single shot. LoRa is a solid-fuel weapon primarily designed as a surface-to-surface and air-launched strike missile. The missile itself is roughly 5.2 meters long, weighs around 1,600 kilograms at launch, and can engage targets between about 90 and 400 kilometers away depending on the chosen trajectory and launch platform. Ground and naval variants are reported to carry warheads of up to 600 kilograms, allowing for powerful high-explosive or penetration payloads against hardened infrastructure. In flight, LoRa follows a shaped ballistic trajectory and ends with a steep angle of attack, helping it penetrate air defenses. It can be fired from road-mobile launchers on land, from deck-mounted canisters at sea, and in its air-launched form can be carried by fighter or strike aircraft. At the theater level, LoRa complements longer-range Jericho ballistic systems and air-launched weapons like Delilah, filling a niche for fast, high-precision strikes at a few hundred kilometers without resorting to full strategic assets. Because of its speed, trajectory and standoff range, LoRa is better suited to surviving medium-range surface-to-air missile belts, while being significantly cheaper and more tactical than full intermediate-range ballistic missiles. Interestingly, just a few weeks earlier, in May 2026, Israel signed a roughly $1 billion contract with II to acquire more air defense systems, reinforcing both its shield and its sword at a time of strategic uncertainty. Notably, the LoRa test was conducted right in the middle of a very public fallout between Israel and the United States, sending a clear signal that Jerusalem is accelerating its push for independent deterrence as American support becomes less predictable.
There's a report in Axios that Netanyahu's fuming over this. Israel doesn't feel bound to the MOU as it relates to Lebanon. If, as you mentioned, your frustration with Israel striking in Beirut, hitting apartment buildings, if that continues, could it torpedo the deal? And what would the U.S.'s response be to a broader war in Lebanon involving Israel and Hezbollah?
Yeah, well, I don't want to get into hypotheticals that could torpedo the deal, because I think the president's expectation is that all of our friends, the Israelis, the Arabs in the region, we're going to work together and actually see this deal to completion. Now, I saw the Axios report, that Netanyahu is fuming. That's not reflective of the conversations that I've had with him, but maybe he's saying something to somebody else that he's not saying to me. What I will say, and this does bother me, is that you've seen people within Bibi's cabinet who have come out and attacked the deal, and in some ways very personally attacked the President of the United States. And I guess my message to them would be twofold. Number one, Donald J. Trump is the only head of state in the entire world who is sympathetic to the nation of Israel at this moment in time. And he happens to be the head of state of the world's superpower. If I was in the cabinet of the Israeli government, I might not be attacking the only powerful ally that I have anywhere left in the entire world. And the second message I would give to some of those cabinet members, Bibi, to his credit, has not gone down this path, but to some of these cabinet members in Israel who are attacking the President of the United States, the other thing that I would say is that over the last 3 months, 2/3 of the defensive weapons that have protected your homeland have been built by American hands and paid for by American tax dollars. The problem for Israel is not Donald J. Trump. And anybody in Israel who thinks their biggest problem is the President of the United States needs to wake up and smell the reality of the situation that country is in. Thank you all.
These latest remarks have further strained already fragile ties, signaling that Trump is willing to air grievances in public and that the once tightly coordinated partnership is now under visible stress. Trump again lectured Israel over its Lebanon attacks, reiterating that he is unhappy with the scale, pace, and political impact of Netanyahu's campaign against Hezbollah and Lebanese targets. Speaking from the conference stage, Trump directly criticized Netanyahu's handling of the Lebanon front, arguing that Israel's approach has been excessive, too slow, and damaging to broader U.S. diplomatic efforts. Beyond Lebanon, Trump revived his complaint that Israel allegedly pulled out of a planned strike on Qasem Soleimani, using this to suggest that Washington has repeatedly carried the heaviest risks while Israel has stepped back. He reminded his audience that it was the United States that ultimately carried out the 2020 drone strike that killed Soleimani, reinforcing his narrative that American action, not Israeli participation, delivered the decisive blow. At the same time, Trump said he agreed with Netanyahu's own admission that the US is the big partner in the relationship, making clear that Washington expects its preferences to be respected when it comes to regional wars and peace deals.
Nobody hit Soleimani. You know, when I hit Soleimani, people thought that was the biggest thing to happen in the Middle East for 50 years. That was the biggest event. He was the boss of Iran and respected, but he was a mad genius. He was a genius, the father of the roadside bomb. When you see young men, and in some cases women, mostly men, walking around without legs, without arms, with a face that's been blown to smithereens, it's Soleimani, 95%, 96.2 they say or something, 95%. That was Soleimani did it. Happened to come from Iran, and I blew him up. You remember that? I blew him up in the Valley of Death. He got off his plane and we followed him, and in all fairness, because they've been wonderful to me, Israel, but they didn't want to do that attack. They were all set the night before the attack. They informed me they didn't want to do it, so I had to make a decision. I made the decision to do it. But it was a joint venture, as we say in the real estate business. That was a joint venture between Israel and us. We studied it for a month. We knew what plane he was going to be on almost a month before. He only traveled on commercial airliners, big ones with lots of people, because he knew we wouldn't shoot him down. He's very smart. But we knew he was going to be on that plane. We followed him. And then Israel informed me that they won't do it. And I had to make a decision. I had some very good generals, and not the ones you see on television, very good. And I want to thank also Pete Hegseth and General Raisin Kane, who's phenomenal. Okay, these guys are phenomenal. They can't be better. But I had some good generals, and I said to him, well, if Israel's not going to do it, we're all prepared. Do we do it? Do you like doing it or not? He said, sure. If you want to do it, we can do it. How well? We'll do it just as well or better. We can do it ourselves. We don't need anybody. So we took out Soleimani. One of the biggest events to happen in the Middle East, maybe ever, but they say 50 years, they say 100 years. I was with the Prime Minister of Pakistan. He said it's maybe the biggest event that has ever taken place in Islam. Nobody could believe it. So that's when it started. It didn't start like 3 or 4 or 5 weeks ago. And Obama wouldn't do it. What Obama did was he did the JCPOA. He loaded up a plane with $1.7 billion in green cash from banks all over Washington, Maryland, and Virginia. They were stripped of all their cash. They had no cash to do payrolls. It all went into a Boeing 757, a wonderful plane, and they flew it to Iran. And they gave it out to people. They bribed people. They thought they were going to get it done. Then they gave billions and billions of dollars after that. And they got a deal that was a road to a nuclear weapon. I get so angry, I guess. I'm allowed to get angry. When I watch the Democrats, they talk about it all the time. We had this deal done. You had a deal that was going to give them, legally, a nuclear weapon. And if that happened, Israel would have been blown away. And in all fairness to Bibi Netanyahu, who happens to be a good man, gets a little excited sometimes. But he happens to be a very good man. We've had an amazing partnership. He's been an amazing prime minister. We have a little dispute over Lebanon. I say, you can do a little softer touch, Bibi. You don't have to knock down a building every time somebody walks into it that's from Hezbollah. But it's been an amazing partnership. But he will say, we're the big partner, and he's the very small partner, and that's true.
Relations have taken a sharp dive since Netanyahu ordered new strikes on Lebanon on June 14th. A move that clashed directly with US efforts to lock in a truce and finalize memorandum with Iran. Those attacks landed just as Washington and Tehran were finalizing their memorandum of understanding to end the conflict, making Israel's actions look like a direct challenge to US diplomacy. Once the deal was announced, Israel quickly asked Washington for a copy of the memorandum, seeking to understand exactly what had been agreed between the US and Iran behind closed doors. The US initially turned down that request, deepening Israeli frustration, before Trump later revealed that Washington had eventually sent a copy, though by then the political damage and mistrust were already evident.